Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone, episode number 421 for the 13th of November 2016, and yes, I'm surprised too. I'm surprised. Henrietta and Maud, the Skeptic Zone cats, are also surprised. The people down the street are surprised. I bet you're surprised. We're going to be talking about the success of Donald Trump coming up at the top of the show when we chat to Evan Bernstein from the Skeptics Guide to the Universe. Now, like the Skeptics Guide to the Universe podcast, the Skeptic Zone podcast is not a political podcast. We won't tell you who to vote for necessarily. I mean, it's just not where we're coming from. We're for science and reason and skeptical investigation and strange things. But I thought I'd chat to Evan because I am interested or concerned or both about the future prospects for science and education in the United States under a Trump presidency. And Evan Bernstein, being a very old friend and somebody with his finger on the pulse, he is just the man to talk to. So coming up at the top of the show, A View from America, Evan Bernstein chatting about the possible ramifications for science and reason with a Trump presidency. Following that, we're going to look at another strange New Age energy. Last week we were looking at orgone energy, or somebody wrote to me, orgone. I wish it was all gone, something like that. This week it's something called scalar energy. Scalar energy and a government warning. The Australian government here, in Australia, if I can put it that way, has issued a warning about scalar energy pendants because, believe it or not, they are radioactive. So some people are getting a lot more than they bargained for with these new age, or as we like to say, newage pendants. Find out what scalar energy is and all about the government health warning and some of the amazing claims made for scalar energy coming up a bit later on in the show. And to round off the show, another in the series of interviews by our reporter Eran Segev, who's also the president of Australian Skeptics, from the recent QED conference in Manchester. And this week, Eran chats to none other than Captain Disillusion. Now, I had the great pleasure of meeting Captain Disillusion way back in 2009, I think, at an amazing meeting, and we got on like a house on fire. What a wonderful bloke. Really interesting, really smart, and he knows more about video manipulation than I've had hot dinners, I think, if I can put it that way. Maybe that's a scalar energy, I don't know. Coming up, an interview with Captain Disillusion. A big thank you to my friends at the National Geographic Channel who kindly gave me a couple of tickets to see Buzz Aldrin talking with some other scientists about a possible trip to Mars. Wow, wasn't that interesting to hear first-hand tales of being on the moon? That was just riveting. And little things, like Buzz Aldrin talking about when they came back into the lunar lander from wandering about the moon, the fact that they were tracking in moon dust on their boots, and the moon dust would be in the capsule itself, and when they pressurized it again, they could smell it. They could smell the moon dust, and he said it had a sort of a burnt smell about it. You just to hear somebody who's been on the moon chatting about those things firsthand was just amazing. And if there are any other future things brought to us by the people at National Geographic, we shall keep you informed. Now here's a note from an old friend of mine, Gary Dalrymple, who runs a FreeCon, a free science fiction and fantasy festival here in Sydney. And this year, the FreeCon will be on the 9th, 10th and 11th of December, held at 188 William Street in Earlwood, a suburb of Sydney. And for those of you who know the area, it's near the Bexley Road, William Street intersection. Now, if you want to take part in this FreeCon, contact Gary. I will leave a link in this week's show notes. I had the pleasure of speaking there a couple of years ago, or a number of years ago, at FreeCon, giving an overview of one of the amazing meeting $1 million tests I was involved with. So it was a great fun. So if you're interested in a free science fiction and fantasy convention here in Sydney, FreeCon may be for you on the 9th, 10th, 11th of December this year. But now it's time for me to run downstairs and have some miso soup and teriyaki chicken. Oh, man, is that good. I remember I was in my early 20s. Yeah, early 20s, I think, when somebody who I knew introduced me to Japanese food for the first time. And after the initial getting used to the taste, I became a big fan. As many of you know, the sushi, the sashimi, the sushi train sort of idea is very popular all around the world, I would imagine. But I do remember the first time I tried it thinking it was a strange and unusual taste, but yes, it didn't take long. It didn't take long, and I used to have it with sake. Haven't had sake for many years. Oh, sorry, I'm drifting away into foodland. While I do that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. And joining me now all the way from the United States with a view from America, it's my old friend and member, of course, of the SGU, Evan Bernstein. Hello, Evan.
Good day, Richard.
Oh, you're learning Australian.
I purposefully tried to sound like the ugly American, trying to do an Australian accent there. I hope I passed the audition.
You did. You did. I think what are you auditioning for citizenship?
There seems to be a lot of that going around these days.
Yes, let's cut to the chase. Now, there are many things we can talk about in relation to the political situation in the United States with the election of Donald Trump, and there's just no other way of saying it. You know, President Obama said something which I thought was very wise. He said in these last two campaigns, while he didn't agree with his opponent, and he obviously thought that he had the better argument, he knew his opponent would make a fine president if they got that far. And earlier, a couple of months ago, he wasn't expressing the same confidence in Donald Trump.
That's right. Yeah. Interesting observation there.
We could dwell on aspects of Donald Trump, like his derogatory comments towards women and minorities and this disabled and his general view on things. But what I wanted to do with you is chat briefly from your perspective about Trump's, or what's the likelihood or the possibilities with Trump when it comes to science and education, because that's at the core of certainly what the Skeptic Zone is all about, and I'm sure it's one of the priorities of the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe as well. So putting aside those other important issues for another time or other people to chat about, what, from your perspective, having lived through this for some time now, where do you think he's coming from?
If he promises to do what he says he's going to do, if you listen to any of the speeches he's given or what he's said in the debates with Hillary Clinton, then there is a lot of reason, I think, to be concerned. I won't go as far as panicked, though, which is sort of the reaction that a lot of people have about a lot of issues with Donald Trump sort of immediately in the aftermath of the election. But once the smoke and everything does clear and the emotions kind of wind down, there are very legitimate things to be concerned about with some of the things that he has said. As listeners of also the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe will know in our upcoming episode in which we talked about this very briefly, we really don't have much of a choice to sort of reserve judgment and to see what he actually follows through with in those promises that he made. Because as we know, politicians have a funny habit of often going against or different from what they say during the course of a campaign. And that is due to a lot of factors, and sometimes that works well, and sometimes it works worse. But so we're going to have to really kind of wait and see. But there is, it needs to be kept an eye on. In fact, a very close eye on. And all of us, as skeptical organizations, science organizations, and otherwise, have a responsibility to keep good track of these things and inform the public as best as we can on what is happening as it happens.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And there's a very a huge groundswell of negativity, of course, and you and I have noticed this, and many of our friends have noticed this as well. Partly, I must say, due to whatever it is, the bubble effect or the Facebook effect, where you are constantly being fed news and opinions that cater towards your own personal opinions, and that can be very problematic. But you are right. I mean, we have to wait to actually see what policies he puts in place, or what he can put in place, because there's a feeling that well, yes, politicians make all sorts of promises and then they have to rethink things once they're in office. But in the case of Donald Trump, he made such extravagant promises that it fails me to see how they could possibly come about.
And this is the reason for concern, Richard, and this is why we have to really keep a very close eye on it and make sure that when these ideas do come through, or the people that he decides to surround himself with come up with suggestions for regulations or whatever he tries to push through the Congress to make law, is that we have to be ready with a response to all of this. And there are some things we can sort of do ahead of time or be ready for, and that is there are lots of different ways to approach this. In other words, we have congressmen. I mean, it's not just the president. There are our House of Representatives, which we all have, direct access to and contact to with each of our representatives, and to a certain degree, the senators that represent each of the 50 United States as well is another sort of form to that. It's going to take effort on a lot of different fronts if we're going to have an impact. So we not only need to keep an eye on what Trump and his administration are going to be saying and doing, but what also happens in the other areas of our government that, frankly, have the purse strings and a lot of power and influence as to what actually winds up getting done.
Absolutely. Well, yes, we do have to look to all aspects of what Donald Trump will be doing, because, of course, what happens in the United States affects the rest of the world, and Australia is not immune to that.
Sure.
I mean, a huge interest here from government to business to every level of society, because it is we are so intertwined. Not to mention the strong partnership Australia and the United States have enjoyed over decades and decades and decades. But we might, if there's a silver lining to a cloud, President Trump might wake up one day and say, well, let's put a lot more money into NASA and go back to the moon just for the hell of it, or something crazy like that, which could bring us good results. It is an unknown.
Yeah, it is an unknown. It's a good point about NASA and exploring the moon. Those are, obviously things that I feel very strongly about, both in the affirmative. And yeah. I think there should be more resources going to that. I think I think overall there should be more resources dedicated to all the sciences across the board.
Of course.
And everything that both federal and state governments, universities, and all the other layers of our, organized scientific system, is, if that's what you can call it, because they're all going to play a part. They're all going to be part of the solution for the real problems that we have, and we have to be serious about this. And one can hope, and if you so choose, pray that your executive administration, and for the next 4 years, will show some level of reasonability when it comes to these things. I think we can't set our hopes too high for that, because we'll be hopelessly disappointed if we decide to put too much faith in Trump or any other one politician.
Well, yes.
We have to keep level-headed at the same time, and also, I think, as you alluded to earlier, Richard, not that our emotions sort of get the better of us and obfuscate us from what we're really trying to do here. We're going to have to work harder, basically, I think, is what it comes down to. Harder than we've worked in the past years, in which we're under an administration which, by comparison to what we expect out of Donald Trump, will be a much more science-friendly administration than what we have coming on the horizon.
Yeah, I think we'll have to put our retirement plans on the shelf for a little while longer, Evan, I'm afraid.
Yeah, retirement plans. That's a good one, Richard. I'm going to write that down and use that.
I know next year you were looking forward to coming out here. We could go fishing together for crocodiles or something. But, let's just put that off for a couple of years.
Well, I'll tell you what. Any time spent with you and getting back to Australia is always worth it, Richard. So even if I have to bide my time and do a little more work on this end to get there, it's worth it.
Well, thank you for that, Evan. It's good to have a view from the United States, somebody who's in the middle of it, in the thick of it, almost, so to speak. And, the whole world will be certainly watching with interest what happens over the next months and years.
Oh, definitely. Don't panic, though, folks. I mean, I don't think you need to panic. That would be counterproductive. So thank you, Richard.
I think you're right. For now, Evan, and we might catch up again before too long to see how things are going.
Anytime, just let me know.
Thank you.
Take care.
Hi, this is Heidi Robertson from the Northern Rivers Vaccination Supporters. We are a group of concerned citizens dedicated to promoting good science and common sense in our region, the far north coast of New South Wales. This area, famous for its natural beauty and relaxed lifestyle, also has the lowest rates of vaccination in Australia. We are out to change that by challenging the myths and misinformation and by providing good evidence-based information to the community. We'd love for you, no matter where you are in the world, to join our fight. Please visit our webpage at www.nrvs.info. We also have a link there to our Facebook page. Tweet us at NRVaxSupporters, that's VAX, and check us out on Wikipedia by searching for Northern Rivers Vaccination Supporters. Thank you.
Last week on the show we mentioned orgone energy, the weird energy that brought Peter Brock sort of undone when he tried to peddle a device using orgone energy in cars to make them go better. What I didn't mention at the time is another aspect of orgone energy. The name comes from orgasm, believe it or not. And I'll let you do your own research on that. Today I'm going to be looking at something called scalar energy. And this is something I've seen around for many years at the Mind Body Wallet Festival. Although not lately. Not in the last year or so. I don't think I've seen Scalar. Maybe it's not as popular as it once was. And a company called Fusion XL that were selling products like pendants and flasks you fill with water, all to do with this scalar energy. But what is a scalar energy? Well, it's a bit of a nonsense, really, as you might suspect, having to do with the new age and this sort of thing. So I've let my fingers do the walking over my keyboard, and I put in the question, what is scalar energy? And from the website Quora.com, and I will provide a link, what is the definition of scalar energy? And one of the answers posted, the scalar bit. A quantity can be a vector or a scalar. A scalar is a quantity that has size. For example, the speed of a car can be 60 kilometers an hour. That is a scalar. The vector is a quantity that has a size and a direction. For example, the velocity of a car might be 60 kilometers an hour due east. This is a vector. The energy bit. Energy is a quantity that can be turned into many different forms. Kinetic energy is related to how an object is moving. Potential energy is related to how much work something can do, etc. The total energy in a system that has no contact with the outside world is constant, which makes energy very useful as a bookkeeping tool. Energy is always a scalar. Energy is always a scalar. So a serious scientist wouldn't say, quote, scalar energy, end quote, because there's no need to say it's scalar. And here is an answer posted at answers.yahoo.com. There may actually be a scientific problem in combining scalar with energy, and have a personal problem with the combined term. Here is why. The term scalar comes principally from the analysis of mechanics in the study of physics. Scalar is an attribute placed on a measurement in science that simply identifies a magnitude without any reference to a direction. For instance, mass, volume, speed, and temperature are all parameters when measured and are referenced as being scalar quantities. To make things more clear, consider the opposite of the scalar, which is vector. A vector quantity is a parameter having both magnitude and direction. For instance, force, velocity, acceleration, torque, electric, and magnetic fields are all parameters under study are treated as vector quantities. Energy, on the other hand, is considered to be anything that can change the condition of matter or the ability to do work. Energy is a complex subject and is not a thing, but both a thing and a process akin to a word being both a noun and a verb. Energy can be studied without consideration for direction, which is the principal difference between a scalar and a vector quantity. So to sum up, it's really not appropriate to put scalar and energy together unless you're using it for marketing, unless you want to make a word salad, unless you think it sounds sciencey. Now, scalar energy has been picked up by a lot of new age sort of thinking people. It's like all these weird energies. It can do everything. You know, use scalar energy in a device and that will, well, the possibilities are endless. It'll certainly improve your balance, your strength, your flexibility, as per those body balance tests, but it also will infuse water with mystical properties or make your coffee taste better, or no end of things. And just looking quickly online, there are many, many references to scalar energy. Some of these search results coming up. Scalar energy, a complete new world is possible. The founding father of scalar energy, Nikola Tesla. Oh boy. DNA, gateway to scalar energy-based healing. I think you get the idea. But what surprised me just the other day when I was doing a bit of research into this scalar energy was one of the results that popped up was a government health warning about the quantum pendants. And these things I've seen years ago at Mind Body Wallet. And the claim made to me at the time was these little pendants you wear around your neck were made from volcanic ash. And to me, that just sounded like yet another claim put in to sound exotic or somehow mystical or just a nice, sexy marketing term. Well, it turns out that whatever they're made out of, and it could be volcanic ash, in fact, it turns out the material is radioactive. Now, radioactive to a small degree, but radioactive nevertheless. And so we come to the warning from the Australian government from www.arpansa.gov.au, published August 2016. Australian Government, Australian Radiation Protection and Nuclear Safety Agency. Product warning. Scalar energy pendants and health. Wearing a scalar energy pendant will increase your radiation exposure. Scalar energy pendants are an alternative medicine product. The manufacturers of scalar energy pendants state that the pendants are made of volcanic materials and make claims of a number of health benefits, including improved circulation, improved stamina, and improved flexibility. Similar pendants may also be labelled as quantum energy or quantum science. What is the hazard? ARPANSA has confirmed the presence of radioactive material in these pendants, in particular the naturally occurring radioisotopes of uranium-238 and thorium-232. These pendants emit alpha, beta, and gamma radiation. The alpha particles are mostly absorbed within the material and pose no threat to the health of the wearer. The beta particles from pendants worn close to the body will only penetrate a short distance into tissue and will be mostly absorbed in the skin. The gamma particles emitted will penetrate over a large area of tissue. ARPANSA has assessed that the whole body radiation dose to an individual wearing one of these pendants is likely to be low. The estimates of a dose are considerably less than doses received by the Australian population from radiation found naturally in our environment. However, these products, in particular wearing pendants continuously, have the potential to give an elevated skin dose due to beta radiation exposure, and limiting exposure should be considered. What should you do? ARPANSA advises consumers that these items contain naturally occurring radioactive material that can result in additional radiation exposures that offer no established evidence-based benefits. If you still wish to wear or use one of these products, it is advised to limit your skin dose via beta radiation exposure by 1. Limiting the time you are in contact with or wear the product. 2. Increase your distance from the product. 3. Wearing the pendant over clothing. And that product warning comes to us from the Australian Government, Australian Radiation Protection and Nuclear Safety Agency. Now, it's possible that the Australian Government discovered that these things were radioactive by various online videos, and looking at the YouTube channel of Anti-Protons and his video, The Quantum Pendant, we see he has tested this pendant with a Geiger counter, and I'll just play a little bit of audio from that.
Let's see how the Geiger counter reacts. Well, first let's put the quantum pendant. I can't help saying that, drives me nuts. I don't know what they mean by scalar energy anyway. That's not really anything I've ever heard of, because all I deal with is, physics, but whatever. Cut on the sound. Let's see what we get in this area right here. In fact, let's see, can I put this on anything? Here, let's put this right here. There we go. So there we go. This is the area. 38. Nothing amazing. Now I'll put the quantum pendant with quantum scalar energy or whatever. Oh, look at that. My particular pendant happens to be radioactive. I, of course, am in no way speaking of any other ones for legal purposes, but I do know that mine is radioactive. How do I know? Because I have 2 independent calibrated radiation detectors, which both say it is. Why is it radioactive? I don't know. Personally, I'm not going to wear it because I have this weird problem. I don't seem to like to put radioactive things around my neck. It feels somehow like a bad idea, but that's my own personal belief.
And that video, that little clip from that video, that's not the only video out there where people are testing this quantum scalar pendant. Now I'll read from a flyer I picked up many years ago from a company called Fusion XL, who make little pendants and things, or at least market them, with the promise of increased balance, strength, flexibility, the same sort of thing the old power balance people were doing. And indeed, when I came across their stall many years ago, they were doing the same sort of body balance routines. And I'll link to a video I made on the subject in this week's show notes, how to do these tricks, these body balance tricks. And they're still going on. I saw one just a couple of weeks ago at Mind Body Wallet here in Sydney, another company doing similar things. Anyway, from this flyer, Bioenergy Synthesis Technology, trademark. And I'll try to read this verbatim. If it sounds a bit odd, you'll understand why. What is scalar energy? Scalar energy is a subtle energy that can be harnessed to produce healing energy frequencies that can be through while experimenting with violently abrupt direct current electrical charges. Has existed since the beginning of time. Benefits of scalar energy. Eliminates the negative effects level of man-made frequency / radioactive TV, cell phones, electric cable and computer. Scalar energy frequencies will neutralize man-made frequencies to harmless frequencies to human, increasing every cell level to 70 to 90 millivolts. 70 to 90 millivolts are the healthy cell in our body. Relieve fatigue, tiredness, and rightly. When sick or tired, these charges will decrease. Scalar energy will help energize our cell back to healthy state and remain the electrical charges. Thus, we will feel less fatigue, tiredness, and rigidity after work. Protect cells' DNA from damage and prevent cancer cell. Well, isn't that interesting, folks? I've had this on my files for years, as I have thousands of other documents, but unless one reads it carefully line by line, a cancer claim. That's interesting. That has legal ramifications, but I don't even know if these people are still going in this country. Anyway, we read on. DNA's particles are connecting with each other in hydrogen bonds. When hydrogen bonds of DNA damage, some of DNA's particles will lose out and become cancer cells. Scalar energy, able to imprint in human DNA and protect hydrogen bond from damage by increasing its energy. Enhanced detoxification and nutrient uptake process, like sugar diabetes, cholesterol, oil, hypertension, toxin. Enhanced system absorb a vitamin from foods and drink and increase system detoxification of chemicals of food and drinks. When cell is running detoxification and nutrient uptake process, it needs to go through cell wall. The higher the cell wall permeability, the easier the detoxification and nutrient uptake process function. We will become healthier when a cell uptake through nutrient and detoxify all waste from cell. Strengthen body immune system. When the cell gets enough energy, 70 to 90 millivolts, detoxify and nutrient uptake process is functioning at best state. The cell will become healthy cells. When cells are healthy, they are able to fight against bacteria in our body. Direct our body immune system is strengthening. Bear with me, folks, there's more. Cleanses the blood and improve blood profile. Improve mental focus and helps regulate blood's pressure. Strengthens immune functions up to 149%. Prevents or reverses cancer cells. There it is again. Isn't that interesting? There are some other points here I'm skipping over for the sake of brevity, but I think you get the idea. How do we know products contain scalar energy? A. The water molecule is become smaller by putting it on the scalar product after a while. B. The cigarette will become tasteless by putting it on scalar energy product after a while. C. Improving the taste of coffee and tea by putting it on scalar energy product after a while. All right, even I have to actually stop before my tongue mutinies and runs out of the room. Now, given this is obviously a translation from another language to an extent, even given the poor translation, the claims are just textbook, New Age gibberish and nonsense, of course. And if I go to the internet now, in 2016, I look at the website of fusionxl.org, you will see the quantum pendant in question as relating to the government health warning and many other products, of course. What surprises me, it's a little bit hard to surprise me these days, is that the pendant in question, according to the government, actually does contain some volcanic ash or material that has radioactive material in it. Why this surprises me is that, for all people know, these pendants can just be made out of plastic or cheap metal or anything. It really wouldn't matter. There's no way that they can do all the things they claim, but they actually are. And along the process, some way have some sort of volcanic ash, which was mentioned to me years ago at the time when I first came across these things, which is an odd situation, which means somewhere, someone along the chain of command, well, actually many people would believe it, as is often the case. People peddling these things at Mind Body Wallet festivals often believe in the product they're peddling. But even higher up, that's interesting that they've gone to the trouble to put this stuff in them. It's also interesting to, over the years, to have many people say there's no such thing as a safe level of radiation. You've probably heard the same sort of thing, yet this product does have it. This product is radioactive. Now, given it's a very low dose, it still is radioactive. And if memory serves, and I think it does in this case, the Fusion XL people were selling something called the Quantum Flask, presumably using this claims of the Scalar Energy. And again, going online quickly, there are many examples of this Quantum Flask. One of the claims made to me at the Mind Body Wallet was that if you pour water into your Quantum Flask, the water then undergoes a mystical transformation, or probably they would say scientific transformation, and inherits the properties of sunblock, or suntan lotion as you might know it. And this I think I've mentioned on the show before. This was one of the rare times I actually had very strong words with the people selling things at the Mind Body Wallet. And I told them in no uncertain terms that this was a very stupid claim to make, and they should not do that. But it's so typical of a lot of these New Age pendants and things that they will latch on to some vaguely sciencey sounding thing like scalar. Or in the case of power band, it was actually the Schumann resonance, which is a frequency to do with the atmosphere and the planet, but the frequency is huge. I mean, the waveform is huge. It's just something they could latch on to. Somebody, some bright spark in marketing years ago thought this would be a good thing. They mix it up with a bit of real science. It becomes quite a word salad, but to most punters out there, it just sounds like it's some sort of wonderful new science. So again, it is worth going to Mind Body Spirit festivals, Mind Body Wallet festivals, because every now and then you pick up a gem, but you certainly learn a lot. And at last, reading the fine print in this ridiculous flyer, I can see that they were making cancer claims, which I should have picked up at the time. Nevertheless, there we are, complete with a health warning from the Australian government. The Think Inc. Annual Pass. Think Inc., the people who brought you Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, James Randi, Dr. Ben Goldacre, Dr. Lisa Randall, Sam Harris, and many more, are delighted to announce their annual pass for 2017. This pass allows access to all their events. Priced at just $299, the average cost of 2 tickets, the annual pass will include VIP seating and a podcast and video versions of the event, just in case you can't make it in person. The Think Inc. Annual Pass is a perfect way for regular thinkers to maximize their experience, as well as a clever present for friends and family looking to explore smart answers to big questions. A highlight of the coming season is none other than Dame Jane Goodall. For more information and to get your annual pass, visit thinkinc.org.au.
Grain of salt, grain of salt, grain of salt.
Let's all take this with a grain of salt. Here's Eran Segev.
Grain of salt now, grain of salt, you gotta take it with a...
Okay, so I'm here with Alan
That guy.
Yeah. Thank you for saying it correctly.
Yeah, known to much of the world as Captain Disillusion. How do you pronounce your last name?
Melikdjanian. Just call me Captain Disillusion. It's easier. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being on the Skeptic Zone. You gave the opening talk yesterday morning, which I must say was really fantastic because it was very, apart from the fact that it was informative and entertaining, it was also very unusual. It was not what people usually expect of a talk like that.
Thank you.
What did you do?
I did, let's be honest, I had about 7 minutes of material of legitimate skepticism information to convey, but I knew I had to deliver a 50-minute talk, so I just filled it with a lot of production value and crazy interactive visuals and things like that. So it turned into like a one-man show that I was very nervous about because it involved a lot of like playback technology and little tricks and things. But yeah, that's what I did. It went off relatively without any hitches. And I really enjoyed performing it. The crowd was awesome. I was very nervous going on first, but in a way I'm glad because I got it out of the way. Because when I saw other speakers after me, it just became more and more intimidating because there were some really brilliant people on, and I would have been way too nervous to go on after anyone else.
Yes, I must tell you from my perspective, having seen a lot of excellent speakers, I don't think you have anything to be nervous about. And maybe just for the benefit of those who weren't there, you basically were Alan, the intern, interacting with Captain Disillusion, who was on the screen above you. And it's very difficult to actually work something like that and make something like this work. But it worked very well.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm glad. Like the key moments that depended on timing and things sort of happening at the right time, those went perfectly. Yeah, it involved basically. I was thinking of like how can I do my presentation and involve the Captain Disillusion character, which involves like an outfit and makeup and stuff, without having to do all that. And also because I'm not like performing at a comedy festival. This is a skeptic, conference. I wanted to be a presentable person and convey some legitimate information, but also make it entertaining. So I did a thing where the conceit of the talk was that I am an intern for Captain Disillusion, and he's on his way, but he can't quite make it, so I have a little sort of interactive call with him, and then I'm left on my own to give this presentation completely unprepared, and then I go on to give all kinds of funny, different sections, but basically it all adds up to just me explaining to people how to make skeptical communication a little bit more entertaining and visually interesting when it comes to videos on YouTube
which is essentially what you do. That's what your channel is. So okay, let's talk about Captain Disillusion a little bit. Not the character, but the YouTube channel. Right. So what do you do on that channel?
Captain Disillusion is a web series where essentially it just kind of deconstructs and analyzes and debunks most of the time strange videos from around the internet, whether it's paranormal, ghost videos or UFO encounters, or just strange tricks and things that go viral online and people are not sure if the thing is real or some sort of hoax. As the character, I take these videos and I just analyze mostly just the visual effects that go into faking the video. And sometimes I kind of venture into topics of ethics about these things, or why do people do it, or what's right or wrong, the state of news reporting on things like this, skepticism in the media. But mostly it's about how visual effects work and how you can, just by looking at those things, you can kind of learn the basics of informal skepticism that you could apply to the rest of your life.
So you obviously apply a lot of knowledge about how video works or production works. But I would say from what I've seen in your videos is most of it is simply thinking and spending time to research. Yeah. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's like I am just relying on the little tiny avenue of knowledge I have about effects to demonstrate how how I would approach that area skeptically. But everyone else, it's up to everyone else to kind of apply that to the things that they know about and to everything, all the other issues in the world in the same way. So it's just kind of like a little template. I can't talk about things I don't know about. I don't have a lot of like scientific background, and I'm not a journalist. But yeah, I think being aware, being informed is an important part of being a skeptic. So you say that you're not an expert and all of that, but your channel's been very successful. In fact, if I remember correctly, I'd recently seen on Facebook photo of you with an award. Yeah, I reached the channel has surpassed. The award, that little plaque, is for reaching 100,000 subscribers. But by the time the receiving the plaque is kind of a process that takes time. So by the time I received the plaques, I actually had already at more than 200,000 subscribers.
And how many do you have now?
I know it's past 250. I haven't checked lately, but it's climbing up there. I think you get another plaque when you reach a million, or maybe a million, and then
so soon.
10. Yeah, we'll see. I'm only doing this for the awards. I just
obviously,
There's no other reason.
And what kind of input or feedback do you get?
I look at other channels and I see a lot of like people arguing and stuff, and there's a lot of skeptical YouTubers that get a lot of like hate and stuff. But I find for some reason, mostly on my channel, there's people like the videos. They have pretty intelligent discussions and they ask me questions, and they give mostly I get a lot of suggestions for what other videos they want to see deconstructed. It's generally positive. I like it. I try not to get into like threads of discussions on my videos, because in the end, at least in my case, it's kind of entertainment and it's a character, and there's only so much you can get into like philosophical or technical discussions before I don't sound like Captain Disillusion anymore. It's a little bit difficult to talk to people, so I keep it as entertainment and as a presentation on my channel.
So people who want to see your videos, where should they go?
They should just look for Captain Disillusion on YouTube, or youtube.com/Captain Disillusion. I sometimes say things on Twitter, the letter C, Disillusion, at C Disillusion, and on Facebook, obviously, the Captain Disillusion page. And I have a site, CaptainDisillusion.com, where you can see like a countdown to whenever the next episode is going to come out, and they come out monthly. And of course, on patreon.com/Captain Disillusion is a place people can not only just watch my stuff, but sign up to support the show. That's kind of my main way of keeping Captain Disillusion alive, is that people, the community, support the show with like donations and things, and in exchange they get various behind-the-scenes looks at how I make the series, because it involves a lot of production, a lot of visual effects and things like that. So I give people an inside look at how everything happens. Okay, so that's for people who actually support the show financially. Yeah. Is there a way for people who are not, can't support financially, for example, first of all, is there a way for them to support the show in another way? Well, of course, like just reviews and there isn't I'm not. It's not a podcast on iTunes, so there isn't like a review system. But certainly, simply subscribing on YouTube, I think, helps, and just kind of sharing the videos is really the best way. And is there a particular video on your channel that actually shows people a little bit more about your process? I mean, you mentioned that it's for Patreon. There's little behind-the-scenes things which, I don't know, maybe eventually I'll release some of those when time has passed for the general public. But good examples of episodes that maybe are like representative of the channel as a whole is like the latest one I posted at the time of this recording, called the Secret Bracelet Debunk, which is kind of a product review / critique of this product concept that isn't very I don't think is a very good product, or at least the concept for it, that's being financed, also crowdfunded. So it's like a technical review a gadget. And then there's others. One of my most popular videos is the Miss Ping debunk, which is just a little deconstruction of a visual effect, funny visual effect video where some people are doing these tricks, these amazing feats with ping pong paddles and some ping pong balls and knives. And it's a fun trick. It's a fun thing to deconstruct, and it's a good illustration of how visual effects can be used in clever ways to make amazing things look real.
And you've had a bit of a kind of sort of feedback from them, didn't you?
Yeah, indeed. It's one of the most fun examples of kind of back and forth YouTube feud that I've ever experienced. Those guys, after I made that video, which their video was extremely popular, and I suppose riding on that was the popularity of my own video. They did a remake of their video, changing everything about the way they did it so that it doesn't fit the explanation I gave. So they kind of went around all of my explanation, sort of proving that they did it a different way. And they also included a little epilogue in which someone that very much resembles Captain Disillusion gets hit with a hammer in the head, let's just say plainly. And I actually found that extremely funny, and I think that's the best way to, if you're being criticized by someone through a creative outlet, criticize them back with a creative work of your own. It's pretty clever.
Very good. Alan, thank you very much for being on the Skeptic Zone.
Thanks for having me again.
Grain of salt now. Grain of salt, you gotta take it with a...
Greetings, listeners. It's me, Captain Disillusion. On my YouTube channel called Captain Disillusion, I, Captain Disillusion, analyze viral videos of the strange and unbelievable. I explain how interframe video compression, 3D motion tracking, and stock VFX elements prove that Justin Bieber is not a secret reptilian alien, that those videos of ghost cars are just unintentional optical illusions, and that lightning did not strike a few feet away from a girl on a beach as we saw on the news. I'm real fun at parties. My best friend is a lens flare.
Eat a dimmer switch, Disillusion.
I do know other people. Sometimes they even show up in my videos. People like Skepticism's grandpa, James Randi, Cirque du Soleil acrobat, Erica Lins, weight loss enthusiast, Penn Gillette, and the actual Beekman from Beekman's World. I hope you'll check out my adventures, interact with me in a platonic way, and even consider becoming a patron of my work. You can do all that and more on YouTube or at CaptainDisillusion.com.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone. Now, folks, it's not long now for the Australian Skeptics National Convention in Melbourne, wonderful Melbourne, 25th to the 27th of November. Check out the website convention.skeptics.com.au. I'm sure you'll have a wonderful time meeting such dignitaries or guests as Edzard Ernst and Michael Marshall and a host of other really interesting speakers. The Australian Skeptics National Convention, Harriet Hall too. Oh, well, she'd be worth the price of admission alone. Lawrence Krauss, good heavens, the list goes on. It's always a wonderful time. The Australian Skeptics National Convention. Check out that website for more details. And, of course, coming up in the first week in December, if you're in New Zealand, you can come to the New Zealand Skeptics Conference. Head for conference.skeptics.nz. And again, a host of wonderful speakers. And I'm lucky enough to be appearing there myself with my good friends, Susan Gerbeck, Loretta Marin, known as the Jelly Bean Lady, and a host of other good speakers in beautiful Queenstown. And that is in the first week in December, in fact, from the 2nd to the 4th of December. And added to that, if you're in the Berkeley area, at the moment I think I'm slated to be speaking in Berkeley, in California, on the 29th. But I will keep you up to date on that information as we firm that up. Thank you to all those lovely, wonderful, helpful, generous people who contribute to the Skeptic Zone financially at skepticzone.tv via Patreon or just by our micropayments with PayPal. All the information's there. And your contributions mean the show keeps going. There's just no other way to state that. It's true. If people stopped contributing to the show, I simply could not do it anymore. And my reporters would be very unhappy. Or happy. maybe they'd be quite relieved. I don't know. I would hope. Hello, reporters. Yes, I hope they would be unhappy if the show stopped. Maybe they'd get a better rest. I don't know. But thank you, everybody. Thank you very much, sincerely, for helping to keep the Skeptic Zone on the internet. And speaking of reporters, a big congratulations to our reporter Maynard, who just spent the last couple of weeks on the road, in the air, on buses, all sorts of things, taxis, fronting the Venga Boys tour. That's why Maynard's been a little bit quiet lately, or if you follow him on Twitter or Facebook, he's not been a little bit quiet. He did a wonderful job by all accounts. I saw some photographs. Maynard was posting a few videos from the tour. If you want to find out more about what Maynard's been up to and hear his podcasts and videos and all sorts of things, maynard.com.au. Oh, and a note to any radio producers out there, if you would like to use a segment from the show, rebroadcast it, so to speak, just drop me a line. My contact details are at skepticzone.tv and have a chat to me, and I am very likely to say yes. Why not? The more people that hear segments and interviews from the Skeptic Zone, the better. But for this week, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia. You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for contacts, an archive of all episodes since 2008, and our online store. Please support the Skeptic Zone by following us on Twitter at Skeptic Zone, liking us on Facebook, and leaving a review on iTunes. You can also show your support by subscribing via PayPal for as little as 99 cents a week. The Skeptic Zone is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed on the Skeptic Zone are not necessarily those of Australian Skeptics Inc. or any other skeptical organisation.